Hello, friends. Welcome to the LeggLife Podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
150.
We made it to 150.
Yes, we did.
What a big deal.
What a big deal.
So this episode, because it is a milestone episode, is going to be all about the 150 episodes that we have that we've recorded here on the LeggLife Podcast.
We're going to give a 10-minute recap of every episode.
Every single episode, we're going to give 10 minutes to. So
buckle in.
Strap in. Buckle up, Buttercup, because we're not doing that. We couldn't even tell you. I bet of 150 episodes, I bet I couldn't even tell you what 100 of them were.
I was just going to say, I think that I could, if I thought really hard about it, I could maybe come up with 10 without looking at the list of the ones that we've done.
In fact, that's one of the problems that we have is that we'll sit down to record a podcast or to come up with a list of ideas.
And we're like, wait, have we done this before?
I feel like we've done
this
this.
a conversation that we had?
And that's the problem, we don't know. So
I don't remember.
Maybe we have doubled up on topics.
Sorry.
If we have, sorry.
We do try not to. We actually look on our podcasts and try to search keywords and try to figure out if we've done it before.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But after 150 episodes, there are some things that we've learned. There are some takeaways we have.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to kind of look back at the first 150 podcasts here of the LeggLife Podcast, talk about some of our favorite memories, favorite topics, let you know what the most listened to podcast was. Yeah. Were you surprised by this one?
I actually kind of was.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was as well. It's not the one that I expected to be number one.
Nope.
But apparently you guys loved it or hated it, because I feel like love or hate drives social numbers.
Correct.
Right? It's either people are very happy or very angry. So we should say right off the bat, you may hear it in Sherry's voice.
Oh, yeah.
You're battling a little bit of a cold.
I'm on the upswing. I'm feeling better today than I have the last several days.
The last several days, it's kind of just hung on, sort of. It hasn't gotten worse, hasn't gotten better. It's just sort of has been.
Yeah, and it's never moved into my lungs. It's never really moved into my throat, although it sounds like it has. It's mostly just been my nose. I'm just kind of stuffed up, and my voice is kind of gravelly, but I haven't gotten terrible. It's just been enough to be slightly miserable.
Sounds like you're doing a Patrick Mahomes impression with your voice, the frogginess in your throat.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. You're adorable. All right, Sherry, let's give a quick recap about why the LeggLife Podcast first. And if you've been listening for a while, you will know this story. We were on YouTube for years and years and didn't have a podcast. And then our first kind of step into the podcast world was with a podcast we created called Spill the Teacups. I still think it was a genius name.
Yeah, we just didn't have enough content to keep it going.
I don't think we cared enough.
Yeah,
And it was basically like a Disney podcast, Disney news, Disney gossip, Disney opinions, all that kind of stuff. And I think
we did 3.
I think we
and
did.
Then we were we don't care enough. To keep going.
We cared enough to do 3 episodes. We didn't care enough to do 4 or more.
Correct.
And so when we started the LeggLife Podcast, I think both of us kind of went into this we want to do this, but I don't know that we will be able to stick with it.
Yeah, although we had a better foundation for this one because it is just the LeggLife Podcast. It doesn't have to be specific to anything. And you and I have been best friends for almost 30 years.
Which is insane
because we old. And so we've had a lot of conversations and we know how to have conversations and we talk about everything. And so there's really no topic that's off the table. And so I feel like it was easier for us to do a podcast about whatever the hell we want.
And that's kind of exactly how this podcast started, is that we would have these conversations in our living room, or when friends would come over, we'd have these kind of deep dives, these deep talks with them, and we'd sort of get to the end of the night and be like, man, I wish we would have recorded that.
Right.
That was a great conversation about a huge variety of topics. Mm-hmm. And so we sort of dabbled with the idea of a LeggLife Podcast for a while, and then we pulled the trigger. Are you surprised that we have done 150 episodes, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that we have stuck with it as well as we have. Yeah.
I am as well. I remember all the milestones along the way, 50, 100, thinking man, I can't believe we did this. I wonder if, this might be the last milestone we hit. Yet we just keep going.
We just keep going.
I think we started, and I may be wrong on this, I think we started it 4 years ago. And so this will be, we've basically, is that right, Sherry? We're kind of looking at each other. Because I feel like if this is 150, we've missed about a quarter. Because, we do every single week. So we would normally do 52 a year.
We should have looked at that before we started. I feel like we started in 2020.
You think we started in 2020?
I think that it's been 4.5 or 5 years.
Are you serious?
Yes, because we were already doing it when I was so sick in early 2021, which was 4 years ago.
I did not even think about the fact that we were doing it when you were sick.
Because that was kind of the only thing that I was able to continue doing.
Because you didn't want to be on video.
Sick. Right.
And so you just, you were fine doing the podcast.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Scrolling back.
I will say I am scrolling back through right now to see.
Why don't you just sort by date?
Oh, I could sort by date. I don't know how to do that though, so I'm just going to keep doing it with Sherry Beth. What are some of your favorite podcast topics, podcast memories? When you think back to 150, what are some of the things that stand out to you?
I really enjoyed doing the series. We've done a couple of series. I really enjoyed that, like the relationship series, and those kinds of things. I think being able to do a wide topic and then deep dive into more specifics within that topic. I think that those are the ones I really like to do.
I would actually like to find more topics like that we could kind of do a month-long series on, or sort of a deep dive.
Yep, I agree.
Because I'm with you. That was actually one of my favorite things that we've done on the podcast.
Yeah.
If you would ask me, I would say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So I did find it out. Our first podcast was, we started in January of 2021.
So 4 years ago.
So it was 4 years ago.
Okay, you were right.
Well, can you say it one more time? It just sounded so good.
You don't hear it very often.
No, I don't. That's
you
why.
You were right, my love.
Oh my God. Can somebody please grab the audio of that and just text it to me? I'm just kidding. It just sounds so good. So it was 4 years ago that we've been doing this.
Which is interesting. So we started it when I was so sick.
Well, yes. And we started it kind of at the beginning. You didn't get super sick. The worst of it was late January, February,
yeah.
March. And so we kind of started, I think, at the beginning of that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. So this podcast has seen us through that health journey with Sherry. Mm-hmm. It's seen us through kind of mom's cancer thing. It's seen us through trips and travel. It's seen us through highs and lows, job changes, just good things, bad things. And I think it's actually been, and I'll talk a little bit about this. It's one of my favorite parts about this podcast is it's given us this weekly connection, not just with you guys who listen, but really with each other.
Yeah.
I love the way.
Almost weekly.
Almost. Well, three quarters.
Since we've missed a quarter of the weekend.
That's what's honestly
not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. We've only missed a quarter of them. Mm-hmm. So because it's a 75%, that's better than I did in high school.
It's 1 year's worth.
It's better than I did in high school. 75%? Are you kidding me? Teenage Adam would have taken a 75 all day long.
Sherry would have cried.
Oh my God, I would have been ecstatic.
Anything below a B+, and I was like, I am a failure.
Anything above an F. D's get degrees, baby.
Whoa. A's get scholarships.
What's that?
A's get scholarships, and that's what I needed.
So do athletics.
Well, I am not athletic, so I was screwed.
That would be a fun podcast topic. Things that we're not.
No.
And we could talk about what are things that we're not, what are our weaknesses? Yours would be athletics.
Yeah.
And so going back to kind of what I was just saying is that we do, and I think it's one of the things I love most about the podcast is that we do communicate really well. You talked about that earlier. Mm-hmm. And
in general,
just in general,
overall, I think we communicate very well.
But this has given us an intentional weekly touch point.
Yep.
On a specific topic, whether it is a deep dive into the relationship series or Enneagrams, personality types, relationships, just kind of, or even trip recaps or just random things like the podcast recently where we talked about the huge cheese heist, both topics that are deep and topics that are shallow. Uh-huh. I think that, sitting here in front of the microphones in our studio, or even
on our phones in the car or in a hotel room that we've done. Yeah.
So we have recorded, actually that's good. We've recorded this in hotel rooms, mm-hmm. in cars driving road trips here in Alaska, mm-hmm. cars outside of Alaska, mm-hmm. here in our studio.
Upstairs in our living room.
Upstairs in our living room. Didn't we do one in an airport? For some reason, I felt like we did one in an airport.
I think maybe.
Talking about like
We've
the
done
things.
a couple in your mom's house.
Yeah. And so it's kind of been this ongoing touch point for communication for us.
Wherever we are. Yep.
And I love that because this to me, for you and I, feels far more relational than our YouTube channel.
I would agree with that. And I think because it is a back and forth conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like YouTube... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think that here, it does feel like largely we're talking to each other.
Yeah.
Where I feel like on YouTube, we are just simply like...
Talking at the camera
or like documenting what's going on.
Yeah.
So...
Yep, I agree.
Sherry, let's talk now about our most listened to episode.
Yeah, this one kind of surprised me.
So we've done, again, 149 episodes. And the one that you guys have listened to the most, in fact...
Across all platforms.
YouTube, iHeartMedia, Spotify, Apple. Far and away, actually, there's not really a close second. Was our Fiji anniversary debacle podcast.
Yeah.
So we, when we went to Fiji, we celebrated our anniversary there, and we had plans, or I had plans.
He surprised me with plans
for this really grand beachfront, like tropical paradise private dinner.
Dinner under the stars at a 5-star hotel.
And it fell apart. And in the vlog, we like talked a little bit about what happened, but we didn't really feel like deep diving into the whole story on the vlog. So we made a separate podcast kind of telling the rest of the story. And you guys apparently
ate that right up.
For
good or for bad.
Yeah. So I was surprised actually. I think I expected maybe, one of our other maybe deeper, talking about why, our feelings around not having kids so many years later.
Right.
Our Enneagrams, our making friends as an adult.
Yeah.
That one of those would be. Nope. It was something that fell apart.
A debacle.
There was some other things that I kind of found out that I thought was sort of interesting because I wasn't sure. 150 episodes. We're super proud of that. But how unique is that in the podcast world? This was interesting. 56.1% of podcasts, of all the podcasts in the world, have 10 episodes or fewer. But here's the thing. Our first podcast, exactly that.
Yeah.
You start with this idea and then just
fizzles.
And so more than half of all podcasts, 10 episodes or fewer. And it said, in fact, only 17% of all podcasts have 50 episodes or more. And
We're doing so good.
150 is very, very rare.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. I really didn't think that. The other thing I thought was really funny, as far as demographic for our podcast, podcasts as a whole are pretty evenly split. It's 43% of men and 48% of women tune in. So it's pretty close to who listens to more, maybe leans slightly women.
Right.
Not our podcast.
Not ours.
Ours is almost 90% women.
89% women.
89% women listen to our podcast.
Thank you.
Holy Moses.
Because of your sexy voice.
Is that what it is? Is that what it is? But that maybe in all of our analytics was the thing that really surprised me.
Yeah. Me too. I would have expected it to be a little less skewed.
A little less skewed.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be more in line with what our YouTube demographic is. And now YouTube is definitely more female than average as well, but not anywhere.
Not 89%.
Not 89% at all. All right, Sherry Beth, let's look back a little bit. You talked about some of your other favorite things. Any other conversations, locations, things that jump out to you?
Oh, sorry.
Sherry's hitting stuff on our desk.
Oh, man. I've enjoyed the ones that we've done with other people.
Me too.
Those have been fun. I would like to do more.
So would I.
I definitely want to do more series. I want to have us sit down and actually figure out a series that we could do.
Like a topic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I feel like you and I are good at those. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like other ones that we've done, and I haven't hated any of the ones we've done. So
That's good.
I think that's a good thing. I think, we've never finished one and been like, well, we need to scrap that. That's pure shit.
150 episodes. Sherry hasn't hated one. That'll be our new tagline.
Woo!
Sherry doesn't hate this. I think for me, I agree. I'd like to have more guests. One of the things I'd love to figure out a way to do is actually have you guys that are part of the LeggLife community as guests on here. And the
fun.
reason I think that is I remember back to one of our meetups in Orlando, Florida. And there was the sweetest lady there. And we got to talk to her there, and she stayed in email communication for a while. And she was telling this story about kind of her life, and she was a Disney animator, like in the early days.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so we're emailing, and she came to our meetup, and I'm Googling her, and like, she's in the credits of like iconic Disney movies.
Yeah.
And I remember she's just one of the best examples for me of, my goodness, like the things that you all do are
impressive.
Are amazing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of stories out there that don't get told. I mean, we point the camera at our faces and get to share our stories on YouTube and here on the podcast, but a lot of people don't share their lives that way. And yet they still have stories in their life that I would love for people to hear, because I think they're informative or inspiring to others. Mm-hmm. And I just would love to, I even think like our friends Cam and Laura, like when we get them talking about Disneyland and like what their experience was like there, and just them as people, how I'm captivated listening to them.
Yep.
And I think others would be as well. So I'd love to find a way to share more stories from you guys, the community.
I agree with that.
I just think that'd be kind of a cool take.
Yep.
I think that I don't think there's a lot of other things I would want to change. I'm pretty happy with doing one a week. I don't want to do more.
I agree with that. It is very lightweight, but I feel like if we added more, it would be not.
And one of the things we love about the podcast is that it does feel lightweight.
Because we don't edit it. We just hit go, and then we hit stop when we're done.
Well, technically we hit record.
All right.
I wish you guys heard her all right, but here's the thing. That tone in her voice also came through her eyeballs as she rolled them. All right. My gosh, that was so funny.
Yeah, I love you.
I love you as well.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing this. I enjoy not recording it on a camera.
So we have, right now we only do an audio version, and we don't post this on our main YouTube channel, which, obviously we'd get more views, more listens if we did. But for us, we enjoy this being a separate thing. Yeah. We enjoy it not being a production. We enjoy that, like, right now, you guys, Sherry just got out of the shower.
I look like a drowned rat.
You look adorable.
I feel like I just crawled out from under a bridge. I feel better after my shower, but for the last several days, have not been feeling great, and I just feel like I look like a troll, and it's just,
Cutest, I will say, though, cutest troll I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
But I enjoy not having to, like, fix myself to get on camera.
Yeah.
And I understand. There's a lot of times that I'm just like, well, you get what you get, and I'm on camera with no makeup, or my hair is crazy, or whatever. My hair is always crazy. There's nothing I can do about that. But I still feel like there's kind of a level of presentability that I need to be at in order to put my face on the interwebs. And the way that I currently look, I'm in pajamas. my hair is wet. No makeup at all. Like, I enjoy not having to, like, fix myself to do a podcast.
And it feels more natural. Even going back to why we started this. We started because of normal conversations in our living room.
Right.
And we've always wanted that to be the feel of this. That it's like, it's as if you were just here hanging out with us.
And if I have a camera in my face, I feel like I need to make sure that my hair is not completely wonky, and that, I'm, like, looking at the camera once in a while, and, that kind of stuff. And I feel like that would detract from our conversations.
Yeah, I agree. So one of my favorite podcast moments was when I was in Colorado last year with Mom when she was going through her cancer stuff, and I sat down and recorded a conversation with her, and many of you guys have listened to that. And it was, I literally, didn't bring a microphone. I had the voice memo on my phone.
Yep.
I just hit record, and she and I just talked as she laid in bed. And at the time, remember, like you guys, I didn't think Mom was going to be here long.
Right.
And so to me, it was in my mind recording one of our potentially final conversations. And I just remember even editing it, just like tears in my eyes, thankful that I had that, because I've had a number of friends who've had parents pass away, who have said they wish they were more intentional with like documenting their stories or even their voice. It's the reason that sometimes when a loved one passes away and the only recording of their voice you have is like a voice memo, you go back and listen to the or the voicemail. Yeah, you just go back and listen to that voicemail because you just want to remember what their voice sounds like.
Yep.
And I just remember as I was editing that podcast, two things. Number one, I was so thankful that I had like this wisdom from my mom. That was like the podcast that, you know, she didn't pass away, thank God. But eventually, someday when she does, that's the podcast I will go back and listen to when I need to remember, right? When I want to remember.
Yep.
And I just, like, that to me was one of the most beautiful gifts in all 150 episodes, because I feel like that's going to be a gift to me for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And I love that we got to do that. And so I would love to do even more of that with family, with some of you out there. So we just need to figure out how to do that because, you know, we live in Alaska. We don't have a lot of family close. And so we
need to take advantage of it when we do. So, and we have a couple of times. We've had two of our nephews on podcast.
Your sister?
Yep. We've had, have we?
I thought
you had my sister on a podcast?
I thought, or maybe it was a vlog.
We had her on a vlog for sure.
Oh, it was a vlog.
I would love to do a podcast with my sister.
Okay. We're putting it on there. You guys, a podcast with Lisa.
All right, Lisa Joy.
I don't know when. Whenever you guys are together next.
We're going to make it happen.
I actually would
I feel like it'd be fun for you and Eric to do a podcast as well.
I do think Eric and I would have fun doing a podcast.
It's my brother-in-law. Our brother-in-law.
Yeah. Not just mine. Don't you dare.
He's not just mine. I'll share.
Don't you dare claim Eric.
He was my brother-in-law before we were a thing, so.
Well, it's a very good argument, actually. But just like those conversations and those things, like we love that you guys get to listen, but so much of this stuff that we make selfishly is for us.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I love the podcast we did with our nephews.
Yep.
Because it was just like seeing their personalities come out as we talked to them was just so great. I love when your cousin Abby was up here.
Yep.
And we recorded what ended up being a very long episode that I loved that whole conversation.
So good. Yep.
You know, even with Allison here just a couple weeks ago doing the podcast on a topic as heavy as trafficking. It just, I don't know. I love all of those things. So I want to do more of that. So 2025 and moving forward as we look to, you know, potentially the next 150 episodes of this podcast, I would love for there to be more voices than just ours.
I would agree with that. Even
though I do like your voice.
I love your voice.
Well, that's why 89% of our listeners are females, apparently, according to you. All right, Sherry. Any takeaways is there anything you've learned about yourself or about communication or about us through the podcast? I'm springing questions on Sherry that we hadn't talked about. Beforehand. And so I apologize for that.
Things I've learned. I think it's kind of solidified something that we have known, I think, that we do communicate well. And I feel like you and I have differing but complementary viewpoints on things. And even if they're not complementary and they're just different, I think that we are good about giving each other space to have different opinions and viewpoints. And that's one of the things I appreciate, I think.
Yeah, I 100% agree. In fact, that gave me another idea. I think it'd be cool to do podcast topics about that. Like, what are the things that we are not on the same wavelength
that would be really interesting.
You know, because
there are some. And I think, you know, a lot of people think that we just have this, I mean, and we do have a really great marriage.
Yeah.
But, you know, people are, I think, maybe sometimes under the impression that we don't argue,
disagree, or that we're different.
We don't disagree on things, and we for sure do.
In fact, I would argue, tell me if you think I'm wrong, I actually would argue that we probably disagree on more things now than when we first got married.
I think so, yeah.
But here's the thing, and this is, we haven't talked about this before, and I'm super fascinated by this topic now. In fact, when we're done recording, we're going to go talk about this.
Yep, we're going to make a list of things we want to talk about.
Here's what I will say. When we first got married, younger, I think both still finding out who we were, yet we were kind of, when you first married, you sort of, you bow to the will of the other person or to the want of the other person. But as you get older and find yourself and find your voice and are confident in who you are, you become more of an individual, and less, it's not like, yes, it's Adam and Sherry, but also like it's Adam and it's Sherry, right? Kind of standing alone and together.
Right.
And I feel like there's a lot of things that we have drifted apart on, yet at the same time, I think our relationship today is stronger than it's ever been.
I would absolutely agree with that.
And we've actually become more different than alike.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
I think it's fascinating, but I think that it's also, I think it's because we do give each other the space to be different and to believe different things. And I think that we are both secure enough in our marriage and our relationship that I can be like, actually, I disagree with that. And even this morning, we had a discussion about that, about something that we were disagreeing about.
We
this
did?
morning or last night?
I don't know.
Last night.
I totally don't remember. Interesting.
Last night, we were watching something on TikTok. And
oh, that's right.
And I was like, yup. And you were like, actually, I disagree. And I was like, huh, all right.
And so
let's discuss.
And here's the thing.
It's okay that we disagree.
I think that and we are so off topic. If you're listening for the first time, you guys, this is what it's like. Again, it's a conversation in our home.
Yeah.
And so the 150th review episode is just becoming like a normal LeggLife podcast.
Yeah.
I think the reason is that I'm not threatened if you see differently.
Right.
You're not threatened if I see differently.
Right.
And I think sometimes we do that. Like we feel this level of like, oh my God, like she's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And and honestly, this was a thing on religion.
Yeah, totally.
That we disagreed about.
Yep.
And he is allowed to believe something different from me, and that is okay because we are secure in our marriage, we're secure in our relationship, we're secure in our love for each other, and just because I believe something differently than him doesn't mean I love him any less.
100%.
And I mean, I think that there are, we call them closed-handed issues. I think that there's a handful of those. There's not nearly as many as most people think there are.
And there's not nearly as many as there used to be.
Right.
We've become...
Oh, yeah. We've become much more open-handed on a lot of things.
Yep.
But I think that if we were to really, truly disagree fully on one of those very closed-handed things, then there would need to be a deeper discussion. But...
Which we would have.
And... I don't know. I don't think that there's anything that would actually destroy our relationship.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. I can't imagine.
Right.
Even if we came down on very differing sides of things, and I would say, I think today,
I think we do.
I think we do. I was gonna say, I think today, even those big issues in life, think of religion and politics. Mm-hmm. I think you and I are more different on the issue of religion and politics today than we were when we got married.
Absolutely.
But I also think that you and I both have healthier views of both of those worlds.
Yes.
We're less lock in step with what we thought we were supposed to. We're more willing to consider and ponder and discuss.
Yeah.
And to realize that at the end of the day, if Sherry comes down on one side of an issue and I come down on the other, we still believe some core things. We think, well, Sherry, I believe Sherry was created in the image of God. She thinks I was created in the image of God. I believe the best about Sherry. I know that she would make no decision with the intent to hurt me, and I think she knows that about me as well.
Yep.
And there's these things that we can say that are more true than what side of an issue we come down upon.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, we can be like, oh, you believe this, I believe that. I don't necessarily agree with what you believe, and you don't necessarily agree with what I believe. And literally nothing has changed. And then it's like, okay, so do you want to go get Taco Bell?
I was just going to say, so you want to go get some dinner? Make out afterward?
Let's get dinner and make out. That's fine. You think this, I think this, let's make out.
Right.
But it's I actually think that's really healthy because you are growing and developing into who you are. I'm growing and developing into who I am, yet we're doing it together, but we don't have to grow and develop into the exact same thing.
100%. And I think that you are more yourself now than you were 21 years ago.
Agreed.
And I for sure am more myself than I was 21 years ago. And I think even though we haven't necessarily moved into the same space, like we're both growing, we're not necessarily growing in the same way. And I think that's okay. I think that as long as we are still showing up for each other as fully ourselves, the best that we can at the time, because we are still figuring out who ourselves is.
And not demeaning each other in the process. That,
Right.
like, you know, if you have a view or a belief that my job isn't to try to win you to my side, or my
Right.
job's not to put you down for like, oh, well, how could you believe that?
Right.
Or how, like, you know what I mean? That in the process of differing, we can both still practice kindness.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times in the world, that's been lost.
Yep.
Like, very kind to people who are on the same side as me. And if you're not on the same side as me, screw you.
Right.
And I just think that's super unhealthy.
I do.
Wow. This podcast, you guys, I was going to say I'm so sorry, but I'm actually not.
We just got way off rails, but that's okay. I mean, that's kind of just what we do.
That is this podcast. And here's what I
Yeah.
will say. Here's what I think. If this podcast truly is the LeggLife podcast, it is about our life, then it has to be about things like this.
Yeah.
Because this is life. It is the growing, evolving, developing, changing
Being
of us.
Yeah.
And that's what this podcast is.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Wow.
You got, did you just mock me? How did
Also,
you know what?
also our life.
You know, I was going to say, yeah, it's kindness until Sassy Pants Sherry comes out.
Listen, it's Sassy Pants Adam.
I would never. I am nothing but kind and sweet. The stare I'm getting right now.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, you guys, we try to end a lot of our podcasts, not all of them, with a question.
Yeah.
Here's the question I want to ask you guys in our 150th podcast episode. And it goes back to this idea earlier of sharing some of your stories on episodes. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you know what? I'm not even going to ask if you would listen to that. It doesn't matter. It's our podcast. Do you have a story, a perception, a perspective, an occupation, a history, a life that you would be interested in sharing on the podcast
With our viewership.
with our viewership?
With our listeners.
Now, obviously, we can't say yes to everything. I don't even know that we'll say yes to any of these. We haven't even figured out how to do that. But is it the kind of thing that you have something you would love to share? And here's the thing. Does it have to be you were a Disney animator? No.
Nope.
Our most listened to podcast was an absolute failure of an evening on our anniversary in Fiji that should have been perfect and beautiful and memorable, yet it was actually memorable for what went wrong, not what went right.
Right.
So what you share doesn't have to be like this over-the-top, amazing, grandiose thing.
No, it doesn't.
So I'm just curious about that. I'm curious to know what stuff is out there. And if you're not comfortable sharing it in the comments, maybe send us an email, just legglife@gmail.com. Would actually love to hear from some of you guys about your stories, about things that maybe you'd love to discuss here on the podcast. I just think that'd be so fun.
I do too.
Just kind of
And we can figure it out. We can figure out how to get people on here.
because we can do all things through Christ who gives me strength.
Oh, all right.
That's in the Bible, Sherry. You should read it. You guys, we love you.
Oh, boy.
I want to thank you.
Yeah.
Since we started, over 125,000 times our podcast has been listened to, which is an insane number for a conversation that this random couple in Alaska just has in their studio.
Right.
You guys have shared it. You guys have sent us some of the sweetest emails and messages and comments. You guys, it means so much to us. I know a lot of you say that you listen to the podcast when you're cleaning or out running errands or just kind of going through your life. And some of you, share stories about how you sit down together as a couple or as a family and listen. Mm-hmm. And I'm so appreciative of the way you invite us into your space and the time that you give us. And we're going to keep doing this. 150 is amazing, but I don't foresee a reason to stop.
I don't either.
We love doing this. Genuinely fun. And we only forget about it a quarter of the time. So...
And here's the thing. It's not even that we forget. Often it's because we're busy or we're tired or, we forget to do it until like the night before, and we're like, dang it. And then we just either don't or we scramble and we do. But a quarter of the time we don't.
Full confession, earlier today, I was driving and realized, oh my gosh, we don't have a podcast.
Yeah,
for
he
tomorrow.
called me and I was like, oh no.
And then I forgot it was our 150th podcast. And I was like, wait a second. This is an easy one.
Yeah.
And so even though, do you guys remember last week's podcast? We're like, oh, it's going to be 150. It'll be simple. It'll be great. We'll talk about it. Make it celebratory.
We still had to kind of figure out exactly what we were going to talk
100%
about.
forgot about that until today.
Yeah.
But we got
And
it.
today is Friday.
Today, oh yeah.
Just so it's not like, oh, we forgot until the Monday before. No. This is going up tomorrow morning.
I was going to say, this episode's going live in like 12 hours.
Right.
But gosh darn it, we got it done.
Yeah, we did.
You guys, we love you. Thanks for being a part of our community. Thanks for, again, every minute you have listened, every comment you have made means absolutely the world to us. And we cannot wait to continue to share more of our life.
Yeah.
And all of the ways that Sherry's different than me.
And there are a lot.
And a growing number.
Yeah.
For example, you think Peeps are delicious and they're absolutely garbage gross. So friends, we love you so much and we'll see. They are gross. We're getting close to Easter,
You're
so we'll
gross.
talk. I'm not, did you just call me gross? On this, the 150th episode of our Love Podcast. You called me gross on our Love Podcast. Absolutely unbelievable.
You're very pretty.
Friend, thanks. I know. Gross and pretty. You guys, we love you so much. We'll see you on the next week's episode. Bye.
Bye.